Hello, this is Doug Vincent with Walk and Roll Live, and this is Walk and Roll Raw. This is just the interview from our many podcasts. Enjoy just the interview and no open and close. Hello and welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I am Doug Vincent. Addie Rich is here, and our guest, RaeAnne Lindsay, is here, and we're going to get to know her a little better. So let's kind of start with that. Let's go back to maybe RaeAnne as a child and what life was like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Hi. So I'm RaeAnne. I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis when I was 10 months old. It kind of got switched to transverse myelitis, but that's what I'm classified as having, which would make me the youngest in known history that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else can take that title if they want it, in the world to have it.
Interesting. So can you tell us what that is? Well, first off, I'm backing you up because you left off a big part of who you are. So rewind.
So I just handed off my title in July, and I was Miss Wheelchair USA. I am a disability advocate also, and I am a disability researcher.
Yes, there we go. That's a better. It's like, hey, she is shorting herself. We are not going to allow this.
Nope.
So
I
can you
thought we
tell
would
us?
get there.
Yeah, right. Can you tell us a bit about what that disability means? I think it's a more rare one that people will not say, "Oh, I heard of that. I've heard of that." Can you tell us what
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So transverse myelitis is very rare, and it usually doesn't result in a permanent disability.
Okay.
So since I was the youngest, I was kind of already against the weeds, as some would say. And it's I always like struggle trying to explain it to not make it so sciencey that people
Yeah.
won't understand it, but still be in the middle. But it's like a neuromuscular virus. So it is a virus.
Okay.
And this virus can attack anyone at any given time. There is a certain age that it usually attacks. But there isn't a lot of research on it because, there is no preventative, there is no medicine to help with it. There's nothing. Like once you get it, you just have to write it out, and then you basically have to relearn how to do everything.
Right.
So thinking of a 10-month-old, like they don't know how to do anything anyways.
Right.
So I was already kind of back, like struggling. So you have to like the non-sciencey part of it is, well, no, that's false. The sciencey part of it is like there's a covering over all of your nerves,
Uh-huh.
and that virus eats away that covering. So when
Okay.
you think of like a wire or like your phone charger or your computer charger, what happens when that hard plastic gets broken or, chipped away or something like that? It doesn't work, right? It's the
Right.
same thing in the body. So, normally, if somebody does result in having a permanent disability from it, they usually lose all the stuff from like uh, your pelvis. Gosh, my brain froze there. Your pelvis down.
Okay.
So again, because I'm me and I can't do anything um,
Like everybody else.
normal or like by
Right.
the books, I guess is the correct way of saying it. I have head to toe feeling. I have head to toe movement, but it's
Okay.
very limited.
Right.
Um, so some of my muscles bounce back faster than others. Some of them, it takes a little bit for me to like get to trigger or fire. And then some of them don't know how to work at all. So then my other muscles have to compensate for that.
So
So that was like a very like
so you
good.
have fatigue that you have to kind of recover from, and then yeah, you have to rest.
Yeah.
And can you transfer? Do you have enough strength to transfer?
So I did when I was younger, and then when
Mhm.
I had scoliosis, because of course I'm a female wheelchair user, so we're more likely to have scoliosis. And of course, I had one of the worst cases that Shriners Hospital in Chicago had ever seen. So I had to have scoliosis surgery very early. So after that, because of the virus and the way my body is now with building muscles, I lost a lot of my upper body strength. So I wasn't able to like recover that factor. So I need help with transferring. I'm not as strong as I used to be. I don't have as much arm movement. Like, I can't like pick up my arms all the way in front of me or to the side of me. I do also have the rotator cuff tears because I was a manual chair user at the beginning and then had to switch over to a power chair. So yes, I get tired easily. I have to be careful with my energy and all that stuff. My respiratory system was really affected by the virus, so I can get sick like on a dime.
Yeah.
So I have to be very, very cautious. I have, great doctors now. I know all the steps to do when I think I'm getting sick. So I'm very well prepared, well prepared as it could be, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think we've ever talked about it on this program, but I'm a polio survivor, and it's a long story, and I won't tell all of it. But through some surgeries and different things, I started getting scoliosis probably in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a lot of things going on in our family, so really never treated it. So here I am, 70 years old. I've got a spine like an S, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's like a miracle. I have no issues. I
Oh man, that's lucky.
yeah, yes, it's a miracle. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
my spine was almost like a question mark. Like it was real bad.
But
Um,
we'll have to compare when we meet each other.
yeah,
Right. You have to
I'll bring my
compare x-rays.
X-ray fingers.
Yeah, be like
Yeah,
bookmarks.
exactly. Be like, oh yeah, well, look at this.
Look at this.
So in looking at your bio and talking with each other, you spend a lot of time. Obviously, you're like the oddity to everybody who wants to study you and things. So you spend a lot of time at Shriners, like they don't know how to care for you because they've never seen it like this. And can you tell us a little bit about like that experience and how that was? Kind of raised in a hospital. Yes, you have parents, but raised in a hospital is a different life than,
Yeah,
you know.
so I spent almost 18 years with Shriners. We moved up, well, we didn't move, like I was transferred for like my disability care up to
Oh,
Shriners when I was 3.5.
okay.
And then you stay up there with Shriners until you turn 21. I say until they kick you out. They say, oh no, it's because you're graduating. They try to make it sound good. And I was like, no, no, you're kicking me out.
Yeah.
So that was always a joke. So they really did anything related to my disability. Now I went up to Chicago because even though I'm in central Illinois and St. Louis is slightly closer than the Chicago one, Chicago is known for their SCI clinic, which is spinal cord injury. And
Hmm.
since my virus is technically a spinal cord injury, that was the best fit for me. They had, I'm not sure if they've ever seen somebody with transverse myelitis before or not, but they were in constant contact with, I believe it's John Hopkins that has like a whole dedicated department to transverse myelitis. But you got to think from 10 and a half months old to 3.5 years, like, there's a big in between there. And so they really couldn't do anything more than what Shriners was doing. So that's why I never got transferred to John Hopkins. But my doctors up there at Shriners were in constant contact with them. I went up there every 6 months for a checkup. I spent several weeks in the summer up there for different camps, different therapies. The hospital down here took care of like everything else, like if I was sick or, blah, 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 needed doctors, checkups, all that stuff. So I really lived at like 2 hospitals.
Right.
Um, and that's something that I don't think, especially now that like, I am a licensed social worker in Illinois. I am focusing on mental health because I know like it really affected me when I was younger, and that it's just something in the disability community that isn't talked about, and it really should be. Because when you grow up into a hospital, it's a whole different life, right?
Right.
I had a hard time. Well, I had a lot of friends. I still have a lot of friends all over the place. It's very easy for me to make friends. Sometimes I wish it wasn't, but that's who I am.
Man, are you trying to get rid of me so soon?
No, I like you, so you're fine. You're safe.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But living
Um,
a life that's much different than other children and other children
yeah.
not having the same experience is very challenging.
It is. It's very hard. And so like I remember like always being told that like I acted like an adult. Like I could understand adult language before I was even in double digits, you know?
Yeah.
So I knew what like thinking through the medical process looked like, thinking through all the different processes of making a full-blown adult decision for whatever part of your life. Like I was able to do that very early on.
Right.
And I always wanted to hang out with older individuals, especially at Shriners, because I related to them more, like my
Right.
friends who had imaginary friends. Like this is something I always laugh about. I never had an imaginary friend because to me, I'm like, why would I pretend to have a friend when I have actual friends? Right? Like it didn't make sense because I wasn't in that childhood age anymore. And so when people ask me about my childhood, it's really hard for me to respond because I'm like, I mean, I did have one, but I really didn't have one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't do all the like weird things kids do because you were like around adults and having to make like heavy decisions and decide if you were going to live through the summer and things that the kids don't traditionally do.
Yep.
Which is kind of cool and gives us a neat segue because how did you kind of deal with that? Because are you going to normal school? Normal school? Are you being homeschooled? Like what's happening? How are you educating over these appointments and things?
Yeah, so I was in a public school, a regular public school. I always like throwing in to like throw people, especially in if they're in the educational system, because like I have a lot of beef with the educational system, which is
Yeah,
really funny because I'm working as a disability researcher in the special education system.
right.
So now it's kind of like I'm coming back at them a little bit.
With
But
smart.
like I was in a very much public school, but I also grew up with the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act. Like I'm only a year and like almost 3 months older than it. So like I basically grew up with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I faced a lot of discrimination, a lot of retaliation, a lot of stuff, especially when I became school age and my parents did what they were supposed to do and advocated for me to go to public school because I had access to it. And the superintendent said, no, she's not allowed to go here. She has to go to a school for, he actually used the R word related to me. And my parents said, no, this is not how it's going to work. And they got a lawyer and they brought him into my next IEP meeting. And the superintendent's like, who's that? And my dad was like, oh, that's our lawyer. And he got up and walked out and was never a part of my meetings ever again. I got an
Good.
IEP like throughout my educational system.
Mhm.
I did not need an IEP. I would have been fine on a Section 504 plan. But again, at that point, I think I'm just lucky to have whatever I had. And so I faced a lot because a lot of the staff were very loyal to that superintendent. And so they took it out on me. Um, Also, like I know, Addie, I was telling you on the phone when we talk, I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
So when somebody tells me that I have to do something, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
I,
Um,
I'm curious, RaeAnne,
Yeah.
Where did you get the pushback from? Was it only from the schools, or was it, other disabled kids, or no, not from them?
No, so I was the only one that looked like me in the schools. I was the only one that was in a wheelchair. Obviously we had other kids in like the special education rooms, but I was very rarely in there. I mean, it was almost like a punishment for me to go in there when my like teacher was like tired of dealing with me, which was fine for me because when I went in there, those special education teachers were like, you can do whatever you want. Like they let me just, get out of my chair. They let me work on work. They just let me be because they knew I could. I wasn't somebody that had to have that special attention.
So did they lump everybody together, whether it was a physical or a mobility disability and cognitive kids?
Yep.
So to them,
Yeah.
they didn't see a difference.
Nope. Nope. And
Great
that's how
job.
that's how my superintendent saw it too. He
Yeah.
just thought like if you were a part of the disability world, no matter what type, you were all the R word basically, and you needed to go away.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
very rough.
I got mainstreamed in 1965, and and I'm kind of shocked. Once really started getting immersed in this community, it's like we're still having this conversation. People are saying things like that with the R word, and
Yeah. Yeah, we very much are, like the worst part was for elementary school for me. When I got into junior high, I had a principal that was outstanding. He had my back no matter what. So it was like a complete 180 for me because I was like, oh, wait, like I'll say something or say that I need something, and he'll be like, okay, let's talk about it, and like actually listen to me and
yeah,
then pressure them to do it for me. And I was like, okay, this is weird, like, which is really hard to say. And so with my research that I'm at with Vanderbilt University in Nashville, I'm like the grant coordinator for Section 504 plans in education. So I've heard so many different interviews from around the nation about students with Section 504 plans, not entirely IEPs, Section 504, it's a whole different thing. And there were times where I'm like, this is still going on. Like it's 2025, 2024, whenever it was that I was doing the interview. And I'm like, this is insane. Like this is stuff that I went through in the 90s. And here we are.
yeah,
Yeah.
frustrating.
It is very frustrating.
So yeah, I'm going to fast forward you. We've kind of talked through school and stuff. So you go through, you're done with high school. We did all the stuff we got to do. What in your head that says, this is what I want to study? This is where I'm going with it. Like, what was RaeAnne's plan?
Yeah, RaeAnne didn't really have a plan because honestly, and this gets a little bit morbid, but like in our world where we can talk
Yes.
about it, I didn't think I would see the end of high school.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Like I didn't think I wasn't supposed to live. And with everything that I had go on with different medical complications and stuff like that,
Yes.
like, so I learned in high school not to make plans because when you make plans, they just fall apart anyways.
Yes.
So once I graduated, I'm like, when I was younger, they had always told me to like have it all planned out, like how to pay for school, what I wanted to do, where I was going to live, like all this stuff, right? And that's a lot of pressure to put on a young kid. So again,
Yeah.
here I was fighting this like, well, I don't know what to do because every time I say I want to do something, somebody in the back behind me will be like, oh, you can't do that. And
Yeah.
at that point, I didn't have a strong enough mental health wall,
Yeah.
and it would really affect me. So like I would listen to it.
Right.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to the community college. Um, I switched my degree multiple times because there was a class that like I had to get through, but I ran into a teacher that was just not willing to work with me or anything. And so I just got mad at him. And then I was like, fine, I'm just going to change my degree again.
Yeah.
I was still trying to figure out what to do. I love learning. I love school.
Yeah.
So here's this place where I can take all these different classes, and
Yeah.
really explore. So I got my associate's degree. I was out for a year because I had tried to go to another university to do like my bachelor's and stuff, but that was
Yes.
not friendly. That was not a friendly campus. So I couldn't live on campus. And
Gotcha.
the department that I was in, like, didn't have online classes. So I was like, well, now what do I do?
Well, that's
So
tough. Yeah.
I volunteered for about a half of a year. And then I was accepted to the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
Okay.
So 20 minutes away from where I live, where I got my bachelor's in communications. And once I got there, everyone like I met, like they were like, you should be in social work. And I'm like, I don't want to be in social work.
Yeah.
Again, like people coming at me saying I needed to do
You're like,
something.
be quiet.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, thanks, I'm good. And so one of my friends, I lived in very cool community on campus, and it was only for people with disabilities, physical disabilities,
Oh, cool.
that needed assistance for their daily living activities. So
Okay.
everybody on the floor, like it was a floor dedicated to us. And it was just really, really cool. So one of my friends, he was in the social work department, and he was like, just come, just meet the advisor, just talk to him. Like very came at me differently than everybody else,
Yes.
saying that I should be in there. And I was like, man, I don't know. I don't really want to. And he was like, just do it, just try it out. It's not gonna hurt anything. So I was like, okay, fine. So I went and I talked to him, and I was like, okay, this seems different. So I
Yeah.
picked it up as a minor for my
Okay.
bachelor's. And I still remember coming out of my first class, which is really funny because my first class was death and dying.
Oh, shoot.
And you would think that would be a horrible class, but it
Right.
was the greatest class of my life.
Right.
The professor was amazing. It was just, I just remember coming out of it and being like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like I found my niche. I found, people around me that were actively listening to what I was saying,
Yes.
asking me questions about my life and what we could do different and, like all of this stuff. So then I went back. Well, I was out for 2 years after my bachelor's. And then I went back for my master's degree in social work.
Okay. Then you're like, you told you so, people better stay quiet.
Yeah. Then I was like, oh man, they're right. And I'm not ever going to tell them they were right, but I wish I
Exactly.
would have found it earlier.
So if you are listening to this podcast and you were one of those people, she humbly states you were so right, but not totally right, because that's
Yeah.
not how it
No,
goes.
not all the way right.
Exactly. So you get done with that and you come out with that degree and then you decide, okay, now what? Like, where does your brain go then?
So when I joined the U of I through my undergrad, my bachelor's degree,
Mhm.
undergrad, that's where I really like came to terms with my identity as a disabled individual. So
Okay.
that's where I flourished in advocacy, learning about the disability culture, just, really immersing myself into it. And it shifted my whole thought process of like when I was younger and people told me I was bad for having a disability or
Yes.
it was wrong. And I needed to try to hide it, which when you have a physical disability, how do you try to
Yeah.
hide it? You know?
Yeah.
And now it was, well, I'm not bad. Like just because I have a disability doesn't mean anything. Like I get around differently, I do things differently, and that's okay. Like that's all I
Right.
kept saying, like it changed from, oh yeah, I want them to just see me as a person to I don't care how they see me as long as they're like immersing me and my chair in my needs into the world.
Yeah.
So it was a big shift. So after I graduated with my master's, again, here we go again. I didn't really have a plan. I just knew I wanted to work in the disability field.
Right.
However, that was going to be, did not know.
Right.
So I worked for a short time at the Center for Independent Living in my area, which we won't talk about.
Okay.
And then I went and I was an aide at the high school for a year and a half.
Okay.
And then that's when I made connections with my now supervisor at Vanderbilt. I had met her originally at the U of I in my
Okay.
master's program.
Oh, nice.
And she said, hey, I'm applying for this grant. Do you want to be a part of it? Do you know about Section 504 plans and the educational setting? And I was like, yeah, I know it. And I'm like, I know some of it, like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. And then I
Yeah.
didn't realize like how much I didn't really know about it.
Right.
So then I had to learn. And so that's how we picked it up.
Well, we know you like to learn and you're going to pivot and pick it up. So there is no fail, but I think all people, no matter who they are, have been in that position where you go, yeah, I know that. And then you're like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
Do I know that?
Yeah. Do I? Are we sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
got you your day job.
That got my day job. It was a complete 360, not even a 180. It was
Yeah.
360, like I very much never thought I would want to be in research, especially when my master's program, because we had to take classes and I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then
Yeah.
I was asked to help on another project before starting at Vanderbilt. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this
Yeah.
because I love asking questions. I love getting information. I love knowing more, right? That's
Right.
like part of my personality.
Yeah.
I want to know more and more. And I was like, oh wow, this is like perfect for me. I get to ask
Right.
questions and no one's telling me I'm bad for like asking questions. And
And you
then I
get
get to
paid
go,
for it.
yeah, and I get to go pay for it and I get to ask others and find out and get to think about all this stuff.
Mhm.
So it was really great. And my supervisor, she's amazing. She understands having a disability, like she
Yeah.
has a family member, like her own brother has a disability, her son has a disability, so she very much understands that. So like I don't have to spend extra time or energy or spoons, as some would say,
Yeah.
explaining
Exactly.
why like I can't work my full day on this day, or like if I'm sick,
Yeah.
like or in the hospital, or something like that. Like she understands that. So like I'm very flexible. My hours are flexible as long as I'm there for the certain meetings I have. Everything is very
That's nice.
flexible.
That's what you need in order to like thrive, right? Like
Yeah.
the accommodations we sometimes need to thrive. It doesn't make us any less smart or any, it just makes us like it's what we need to get. The container that's carrying our brain
Yeah.
needs more than other people sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. So that was really great. And then, of course, when I decided, well, I wasn't busy enough, that I would try to go for a pageant title, my boss was super supportive about it. And she has been ever since. So that was like a whole nother, like, oh, well,
Layer of friendship and support. Yes.
yeah.
So tell us about the pageant pivot because, all right, we know what you do for your day job, but becoming Miss Wheelchair USA is no small feat. So tell us what that's like.
Yeah, I had always wanted to be in a pageant when I was smaller,
Hmm.
or younger, I should say. And I would always get really, really sad and, upset and all this stuff because it was very clear to me that like someone like myself
Yeah.
wasn't really invited into those spaces. But I really wanted to be. And at that time when I was younger, I really think one of the reasons why I just wanted to be a part of that world was because I saw like the winners getting respect and like people would listen to them. And it was a whole nother level of advocacy. I didn't know it then,
Right.
but
It's
it's
a
a whole
platform.
nother. Yeah. Right. And I wanted that. Like that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be seen as somebody that knew what they were talking about when it's related to their own life. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I was struggling again with mental health times, and I was like, you know what? I want to do a pageant. And I know there's
Okay.
some out there. So I'm just gonna dive in because that's what I do. And that's what happened. I sent an email one night to the CEO and the manager and the executive producer of Miss Wheelchair USA. And I was like, hi, my name's RaeAnne. I would like more information. Okay, thanks, bye. Like that was like,
Right.
and I hit send and I threw my phone down on my bed and I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Right.
Um, so she emailed me back the next morning. We started talking about different things, the application. Of course, I had 1 week to get the original dead or the application done. And for the first step, like you either have to have a state or a regional title.
Right.
So that was like my first decision. Excuse me. So she was like, well, I can move your due date back to give you more time if you need it. I'm like, absolutely not. If you move it, like I won't do it. Like,
Yeah.
nope, give me this week. I'll get it all done. And she was
Yeah.
like, okay, let me know. And I'm like, okay.
She's
And
like,
so,
okay, crazy.
yeah, she's like, there's a lot of stuff you gotta get done. And I'm like, yeah, but if you move it back, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'll talk myself out of it is what it was gonna be. And so the winner then, she was from Chicago. And I
Okay.
had saw previously that she had had the state title the year before, which that's what you have to do, right? And I was like, oh, wouldn't that be cool if like I had the state title and then I also won the national title right behind her and we would have like a back-to-back win? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be cool? And I also thought that like if I ran for the state title and I didn't win the national title, then I could do it again as the regional.
Oh, makes sense.
And then I could compete again for the national title, right? So
Yeah.
that would have like made it longer for me.
Right.
So that was my plan. Here we go again. This is why RaeAnne doesn't make plans
Right.
because
This is
there was
why
like,
RaeAnne is not in charge of the plan.
no, because every time I make a plan, it just disaster. Well, it's not a disaster. This one wasn't a disaster, but it changed, because I'm like, there's
Right.
no way I'm going to win a national title. Like, no, I'll have 2 years as the state and then the regional, and then I can hopefully maybe get the national title. So I was awarded Miss Wheelchair Illinois USA. And so for that whole year and with my platform, it was a struggle for me to narrow it down, as you could probably tell. I'm very interested in everything,
Right.
especially disability related. But my one of my best friends, who she was like the first person I told about this, because I knew if I told her about it, she wouldn't let me talk myself out of it.
Right.
And I was right. She was like, you need to do it on the playground. Because the previous year I had just successfully advocated for an all-inclusive playground in my area for my hometown.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, but is that too easy? And she was like, no, it's not too easy.
You're like,
Like,
how easy was that to get that done? Not very easy. So there you go.
not easy, but I was like, yeah, but I already did that. Like, why don't they just see it as it being easy? And she was like, no, not at all. Stop it. So that's when my platform became inclusive playgrounds are for everyone. And so when I won the state title, of course, it was all over this area here.
Right.
And I had a lot of people reaching out to me, wanting to know more information about inclusive playgrounds.
Right.
They do it, like where to contact, like what different ideas I had. So that was really cool because I have a lot of people in the state of Illinois, obviously.
Yes.
So they were able to like see different events and see different like other groups that were like, yeah, we want an accessible playground or an
Right.
inclusive playground. Here's our idea. And they're like, oh, no, Brian's gonna not like this at all, get a
Yeah.
hold of them and help them out. So I did a lot of stuff that year as I was preparing for the national
Right.
competition. And so the national competition is in Ohio. And so I went over there for an entire week. It's a full week of events and, like interviews and all that
The
stuff,
whole
right?
shebang. What we might have seen on Miss Universe, it happens the same way.
Yeah,
Yes.
literally. And so it was a whole different experience. I didn't know what I was getting into. I got really nervous at the beginning, which always shocks people because they know, like, I'm always referred to as like a fierce advocate, or like a lot of people have told me that I'm really intimidating, like
Right.
when they first meet me. But I get really self-conscious like anybody else, right?
Yeah, it's a
And
poker face. It's
yeah,
a
and I'm
poker
like,
face, and sometimes it's easier to play than others.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, I haven't done enough during my entire life to get like this title,
Yeah.
and yet I still ran out of room on my poster board that I had to make because I had done so much in my life, and I'm like, no, it wasn't enough. I don't deserve this title. Um,
Your mental health was trying to talk you out of it.
yeah. And so my parents, of course, said the same thing that my grandparents had said previously. And they all four told me just to be myself, which I always tell people, I don't let myself out very often, like my true
Yeah.
self, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the one person that you protect no matter what. And I was
For
like,
sure.
okay, she's kind of weird, but that's fine.
All of us are like, yeah, we're kind of weird. Did I just say that
Right?
out loud? You know what I mean? It's that moment of like, I didn't mean to do that, but there is no rewind button.
You know what? I just laugh it off and go, "Yeah, whatever." Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's what I did that whole week.
How many
I
competitors are there in the pageant?
so it changes. So that one we only had six.
Okay.
Um, this previous one they had five, I think.
Because it's
Um,
by region?
so it can either be state or region.
Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on how many competitors that they can get for each
Gotcha.
year.
Okay.
Um, and it's actually really hard to get people to like apply for it, like because
Right.
you're putting yourself out there and a beauty
Yeah.
competition,
A beauty competition has,
pageant, even though they're not seen like that anymore. Like we all kind of know that's what those pageants are, right?
yes. Yeah.
Um, Even though they aren't like it anymore, they're trying not to be like it. So when you have a disability, and this one especially is only for individuals that use a mobility device.
Okay.
So it was kind of like more limited, but also just focused on those of us that used a mobility device. So you didn't
Okay.
have to be a full-time wheelchair user. You could be a part-time or, but you had to use it at some point.
Right.
So that was also really important to me, um, because I think we've talked about this. I want to make sure that like I prove to myself that I earn whatever I get.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
I don't like handouts or anything like that. Not that they're bad, not saying that,
They're
but
helpful sometimes.
they
However,
are hard. And I have gotten them before. It's just like in this kind of a setting, I want to prove to myself and to everybody else that I am the best, which is, I don't like saying that because that's really weird and it sounds like I'm gloating and I'm not.
yeah.
Um, but I
You
deserve
like
that.
to earn it. You don't want a
Yeah.
participation trophy. You want an earned trophy.
Yes. Yeah. See, you said it way better than me.
Oh, yeah. I'll just be
Exactly.
your sidekick from now on. No,
Yeah.
so you get that title. You
Yep.
don't believe that you're going to get that title from our phone conversation. You literally were like, "What?"
I did. It's so funny. I always tell people like the one thing that I was aiming through the whole entire week was I wanted Miss Congeniality because
Yeah.
to me that meant the world because that meant that all the voices that I had previously telling me like I was a bad person or like I was selfish or anything like that, that would prove them wrong in my
Right.
eyes, right?
Right.
that was the one thing I wanted most. So when
Right.
I won Miss Congeniality, I kind of went, okay,
I'm
oh
done
crap.
here. I got what I wanted.
Now I really want the big title. Like, like
Yeah.
that. And people are like, well, didn't you want to win? I'm like, well, yeah, I wanted to win, but also I didn't allow myself to really fully know how bad I wanted to win it
Right.
until that point. And
Right.
so when my name was not called, which meant that I was the ultimate winner, like there's still pictures and video out there where you can see it on my face and like it just goes, what? Like, I mean, my
Yeah.
mouth pops open and like I'm looking on the audience like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so it was very shocking, very humbling, as somebody with a disability for a majority of my life, like I'm not usually chosen first for things.
You're
So it was,
overlooked. Yeah.
yeah, so it was just absolutely wonderful. And it was something that I could check off my list
Yeah.
of things I get to accomplish. And it just meant that I had a whole nother level. Again, here we go, of pageants, whole nother level of advocacy, right?
Right.
Um, so I was able to do all these different events and
Well, that's
talk.
what I was going to ask. Cause so, yeah, you get a title. That's great. Fine. Yay, go you.
Yeah.
But what does that open for you? Like, what is your obligation now as Miss Wheelchair USA? What does that do?
Yeah, so it's different now because I'm not one of the acting ones, but I can
Yes.
still represent that title. So I
Right.
can still do events, I can still do appearances, I can still, advocate. I'm gonna help another city that reached out to me just a couple days ago. Next week, hopefully, maybe we'll see what the weather's like. To talk about inclusive playgrounds.
Yeah.
So people are still reaching out to me still heavily wanting me to be involved.
Yeah.
Um, I've talked to like world renowned companies that like wanted to learn about like disabilities and like
Amazing.
how to include that and all of this stuff. So it's really allowed me to, it sounds weird, but it's allowed me to be who I've always wanted to be
Yeah.
and needed to be when I was younger, now to be for others.
Right. And that's amazing. I mean, that's nothing is an accident. Doug will tell you all the time on the podcast, I'm the nothing is an accident.
Yeah.
So that is what it, that's what it's for. And here we are. So what is that what's next? You handed your title and so now what? I mean, clearly, like you say, you're still doing events and things, but what is on your if it's like, yay, I've accomplished what I was setting out to accomplish in life. Not that you're ever done, but what does the future look like for you?
Yeah. Again, here we go. We're not making set plans, but
Okay, I
I
won't hold you to
am,
it, but we're gonna.
yeah, yeah. Don't hold me to it. I have two new goals. Well, one of them is still kind of development. Um, I would really like to go for a PhD.
Okay,
Um, and people are like, well, why would you like that? And I'm like, because Queen Doctor sounds really cool.
right?
And they're like always laughing and they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, but really, like, how
Yeah,
cool would that be, right? Um, but it's also to me like, again, I love education and stuff like that, but I feel like there's a whole nother level of advocacy, especially in higher education, and
yes,
you need that higher degree to get into those doors, right? Like, yeah, I have my master's, which helps, but having that PhD would help even more.
right,
And we know that like the number of disabled individuals with a PhD is very, very low.
right.
So I, of course, want to be a part of that world. And then my other one is, well, since it was my first pageant as Miss Wheelchair USA and I won it, I kind of wish on one hand I didn't win it because, that would give me a longer opportunity to do it because I really liked it. But now the other one is Miss Wheelchair International. So it's a higher up. It takes a lot more work, which I'm not afraid of work at all. You know
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yes.
I love challenging myself because I think that when you challenge yourself, that's when you really grow. So I am a huge
Yes.
advocate of like stepping outside of my comfort zone, because that's when the magic really happens. So,
For sure. So she is leaving her comfort zone shortly, but doing the groundwork because when you and I spoke separately, you told me that there's quite a bit of groundwork to even be considered for that. So,
yep, there's a lot of stuff to get done. So like I wanted to take a small break anyways because my work was ramping up. And I'm very dedicated with that. I'm running all over the place. I just got back from Denver
that's
where
what I was going to say. Yeah.
yeah, I attended a conference. I presented at that conference. I have another one in March. We might have another one at the end of April. And then I
Okay.
was brought on to another project, where I have to go to Nebraska twice next
Okay.
year. So like there's a lot of work to be done, right? Um,
Yes.
so I wanted to take a small time.
Hiatus.
Yeah, I'm still able to start working towards that
Right.
culture and
That's awesome.
yeah.
So we always kind of do this. If you had advice for either a kid who's growing up in a hospital or a family whose child has recently got a diagnosis or somebody who's trying to advocate for their kid at school, like, is there a few snips of advice that you think you could give that somebody could take?
Oh my gosh,
I
that's a
know, sorry.
loaded question. I would say to the individual, the child themselves, um, the world is still not as welcoming as I wish it had been or would be.
Yes,
Um, but don't let those voices get too far into you. Like
yeah,
don't listen to them too much. Of course, listen to the ones that keep you safe and like protect you and help you grow and all that. But don't let the negative portions consume your life, is what the
right,
best. And then for everyone in general, family, children, anybody in between, allies, or people just wanting to learn more, just because we have a disability, and I do use the word disability, and I'm not using it as a negative.
hmm,
I'm using it as a positive because that's what I have. I have a disability. It just means I'm different, right?
right,
But the beauty is that I'm able to see the world, not even myself. I know others with disabilities, like we're able to see the world way differently than everybody else. And I think that's a huge positive, right?
right.
Um, and just because, yeah, I might need help with stuff like that, or like
Yeah.
different activities, or, it
Yes,
doesn't mean I'm any less, right? And I'm
yeah,
not,
and your life is no less full because you're different. Like, look
yeah,
at how busy you are and look at the things you've accomplished and all that. So,
yeah. And I just thought of something else, and now like it's in the back part of my mind that I wanted to put out there. Oh, you're not alone. That's what I wanted to say.
yeah.
That was something that I really felt when I was younger, that like I had to fight these battles all by myself.
Hmm.
Um, and I've heard from caregivers, parents, or anybody that has custody over a child. We use caregivers in the research. Um, say that they also feel alone, especially like trying to fight for accommodations in the school setting or the hospital setting, or anything like that. You're not alone, and to really lean on the community because it's really great. I didn't do that when I was younger, and I really wish I had.
Yeah. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah.
So last thing, if people want to keep following your journey and see all this unfold, how can they see you, reach out to you? What's your socials like? Do you want people to interact with you? I don't want to be like, yay, she's wide open, and you're like, oh no, I'm not.
Yeah, no, people always ask me, especially like at the conference, and I always laugh. I'm like, it is really easy to find me. Like if
Yeah.
people say, I've heard a couple of times, they're like, it's really hard to get a hold of you. I'm like, it's really not. I've made it so easy. I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram. I don't get on Instagram as often, and
Yeah.
my direct messages in Instagram don't go straight to my phone, so I have to get onto it to see them. My Facebook messages go straight to my phone. And then I do have a TikTok, so I'm trying to make more videos. That's again putting myself really out there, and I'm trying to get better at it. But a
Yes.
lot of people are like, you need to do this because you'll be really, really good at it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
do I? So, if you have questions, if you want to follow me, feel free to, follow me on there. I probably watch my Facebook a little bit more
Maybe.
when adding new
Kinda.
people. So, again, that's where I put a lot of my stuff is on Facebook. Instagram's kind of in the middle, and TikTok's like slowly rising.
Awesome.
So please feel free to reach out to me, follow me, ask me questions. I am willing to do way more and go beyond. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you for spending time with us today, and I look forward. We're probably going to get into some trouble at the Abilities Expo in Chicago if we can make it happen. So I
Yes,
look
I'm
forward
so
to hanging out.
excited.
Yeah.
Good to
And
meet
Thanks
you.
for having me.
oh, absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for an episode of Walk and Roll Live Raw. Keep checking back for more raw interviews.